And thank you so much for being here at this webinar for the 10 things you need to know before planning to downsize. It's a really big deal, and glad you're here so that you can learn all the things. I'm Genny Williams with Extra Living at eXp Realty, and I want to introduce to you Rachel Post. Welcome.
Thank you. Rochelle Post with Peddling Post, and I'd handle estate sales, moving sales, downsizing sales, all of the things.
Yes, very much an expert.
Yes.
And I want to also introduce to you my mortgage expert friend, Matt Laird.
Hello, Matt Laird with Canopy Mortgage. Always happy to jump on and help Jenny any way I can, and hope we got some really good stuff for you today.
Well, I'll have to tell you that our hearts are in education because the more the consumer knows, the more choices, and actually clarity at the same time that you have when you are making a downsize. So, what's very interesting is that studies have shown that 1 out of 3 homeowners are very interested. They've shown interest in wanting to make a downsize. But I also find the stats very interesting as well that last year only 22.7% of retirees actually did.
hmm
Even though there's so much interest, right? That's a low percentage of retirees. And I will just have to guess and speculate that that is because people don't want to get rid of that low interest rate. Many
Yes.
people refinanced and have, threes and fours, and they're kind of sticking to it as they're weighing the odds for affordability. So that's something that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about um, uh, a lot of the different aspects that my clients have been through this year as far as downsizing, and also the things that you two have seen that's out there. So let's just jump right in. And I'm a meat and potatoes person. I believe in eating dessert first, but if I ask somebody to show up, I want to make sure they get as much info as they possibly can. So, with the time that we've got today, we're going to give you some meaty stuff. If you need more, just reach out to one of us. All of our contact information are going to be on here, and we will help answer your questions. So the very first one, as we're getting in through conversation, I was like, my clients have said, "Oh my gosh, if I could do it over again, I would say, let's plan ahead more months. Let's give ourselves at least 12 months to make it all come together." Because I literally had a phone call, and you'll love this, Rochelle. I had a phone call. I believe it was in April. And they were just asking me, what's the best time? And I said, well, really, you're going to get the most for your money in May. In our area, that's what happens. That's going to be your highest listing price, usually is going to be in May, unless all the competition goes away and you're the only one on the house, the only one on the market. And
Right.
they were like, oh, let's get busy. And they ready in no time. And I felt so bad for them. They were completely exhausted because in 1 month we had that house packed, on the market, ready to go, multiple offers, 20 something people in an open house, and under contract. And they provided us dinner the other night. They cooked us dinner at the new downsized place the other day. And they were like, okay, if I could give anybody a tip, I would say plan 12 months out or more. So how do you feel about that?
I think that's an ambitious timeline. I mean, it can be done if, the people are in the right mindset to just, let's do this. And, it's kind of like ripping off a band-aid. You're like, we're in it. Let's just go ahead. But I do think, I mean, I'm a planner, I'm type A. I personally would rather have more time, but it can be done both ways. It's, whether or not somebody wants a fire drill. But it can be done. It's definitely not going to be easy, but it can be done. Especially when you have a professional like me or in my team who comes alongside.
Right. So what normally is your time frame when you're helping someone, kind of like from making that decision until, do you have a typical scenario?
I do. I mean, I would love 30 days. That's a dream. I I typically get most of my referrals from agents, maybe 70-80% of my referrals come from agents. And listen, if they've got a client and they've got a hard deadline, then I'm in it with them and I just get it done. I am doing one now in Pinson that I had maybe 2 weeks. And I would say 2 weeks is about the least amount of time it can be done. But it's definitely more of a race, a sprint at that point.
Well, okay, so it sounds like whenever you're getting the referral, they've made a lot of the decisions.
Typically, yes.
Okay.
I am working on one right now that they don't even have a buyer on the house yet. And so we've just started by kind of selling some things that they know they're ready to part with and kind of thinning out what they do have. They have a very large home. And so I said, just pick 20 things that you know you're ready to be done with, and we'll go ahead and start trying to thin out some of what's in the house.
Okay, so that brings us to like point number 2 that you need to know ahead of time is what do you do when your kids leave their trophies at the house and their prom dresses and all the things that nobody really wants to get rid of, but they're never coming back to get.
Right. Yeah. I was just talking to one of my boys about that. I find a wedding dress in pretty much every attic that I've ever been in. Typically, what frees people up is what I tell them is to just focus on what you're taking with you. That needs to be the very first and only thing that they're concerned about with regards to working with an estate planner or, an estate downsizing professional. But what's really tricky is getting the kids in there to get what they want. So I tell clients, you give them a very hard deadline, because if you don't, they'll wait till the last minute. It's just human nature. So um I tell people, get their kids, their cousins, their aunts, whoever is going to take something from the house, to prioritize that and make that be the first thing that they work on, is making sure that those things are already removed from the house. Not only does it clear it out, but it frees up space for staging and merchandising and all that kind of stuff for the actual downsizing sale or estate sale. So people have attachments emotionally or mentally, just pretty much everything in their house.
Yes.
So it can be really, really daunting. But I have found that if they just focus on, okay, I'm taking this into my new space, I know I'm not ready to part with this, then it kind of helps them narrow it down. And then the good news is that oftentimes this is done in phases. So if they get into the new house and they have stuff that is of value and they haven't found a place for it, we can still work on it on the back end too. It's not like it's a, one time and that's your only chance, but you want to get the most bang for your buck when you're prepping and going ahead and doing it, because it is sort of unearthing everything in the house. So it is a lot emotionally, but it's not for me, because I can be objective, because I've done hundreds of them and I see a new house every week. This week I'm in 2 different houses. So for me, I'm objectively going through everything. But for them, it's just, okay, what do you want to take with you? I mean, ideally the client can move, but I know
Right.
sometimes realistically they can't go ahead and move. But if they can move and go ahead and move and just leave behind everything they're not taking, then we can handle everything.
Well, and sometimes you're looking at houses that maybe are in probate or in an estate that might be a little bit different. Our family personally, and Matt knows this because we've been friends for so long, I normally have to buy the next house before I sell the current house because we're such pigs. Like, we can't go through the showing process.
That showing process is grueling for everybody. Yes, it
Yes.
is.
And that's just a little bonus. But if we go back to like what's on this download, number 2 was, like you said, give a really hard date for people to come and get their stuff. And I would even suggest going ahead and packing it up for them, because they're not going to want to come and do it. And just
No.
say, hey, if it's not here by this date, no matter what it is, it could even be other people that have lived with you throughout the years. It doesn't necessarily have to be kids. Just say that this is going to the donate box, or these dresses are going to go to, some of the suites, special needs centers.
Yes.
They love stuff like that, prom dresses.
There is a huge generational gap. You have the silent generation, which was like the Depression era, where they did not get rid of anything. So, because they never knew when they were going to need it again. And so that mentality kind of got passed down to the next generation, but it got a little looser. Well, now kids in their 20s, they don't want the hand-me-downs. They want stuff that's their vibe.
Yeah.
And so, grandma's china,
Mm.
I
I break
see that
people's
over
hearts
and
every week by
over.
telling them their kids do not want their stuff.
Yes, I know. And I mean, it comes up every single week. Oh, I've just got this, it's been handed down through generation. And I'm like, I don't want to upset you, but nobody's going to want that.
Yes, the best I can do is rehome it and find somebody that appreciates it as much as you do.
Right.
But never, ever, ever do I throw something away. I just there's too many people that need things, and um, so we work really hard to make sure that they're rehomed, and even on the back end that things are donated and not thrown away. Only thing that should be in the trash is trash.
Love it. Love it. So on, really the next thing to think about is, I really like to set this expectation. The new home is probably going to cost you more than you think. And I hear this all the time. Matt, I know you hear this. Um,
Oh, yeah.
People have an idea, right? They start searching online probably a year before they're ready to make this decision, and they'll start seeing houses in the 300s or the 350s, and they're like, "I can live there. I can do that. Yeah, that looks like a great place." But by the time you are ready, home prices will have increased. Those homes have sold. A new wave of inventory is on the market. And the new house, every single time on my downsize clients, is always more than what you originally thought. So I really want to set that expectation. And Matt, I know that you are an expert in affordability, and seeing what people can afford on their next house.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, just like you were saying there, I've got clients right now who are paying more money for their downsized house than they paid for their house their big, beautiful house that they like 10 years ago. So, it definitely happens there. So, um, but you were saying about affordability and
Well,
downsizing.
and that's a good point. Okay, they might be paying more for it, but it might take less to maintain.
Absolutely, 100% less. Yeah, because in a big house you've got electrical bills that can like those ceilings behind you,
Oh, yeah.
trying to heat and cool that versus a smaller space and everything.
Well,
Or
and HOA fees, and I
maybe,
mean, there are just so many things out there to consider.
yeah, lawn maintenance, things like that as well. So
Well, and I've also had so many people come to me and say, "All right, we're ready to downsize," and they actually upsize. So that's actually pretty common, and I can normally tell through the first conversation how that's going to go.
yeah,
Um, but lately this year, I've helped a lot of people, over 4,000 square feet move into 2,000 square feet, and it can be overwhelming. Which brings us to number four. And Rochelle, I think you're probably used to seeing this overwhelm constantly. I mean, this is an overwhelming process. All of your stuff is not going to fit into the new house.
Nope, it's not. And you know, I've never been into a house that doesn't have an abundance of things, because everybody collects something. And I always one of the fun things about my job is figuring out what that theme is in the house. But everybody collects something, everybody has something that they really enjoy having around them and surrounding them. So, you know, it's hard to just narrow it down, but the freedom that comes on the other side of that painful purge, it's time and time again, I just tell clients, like, just hang on, because you're almost to that part where you get to just take a deep breath and you've done it. And now you get to just enjoy this new space that you don't have to worry about, upkeep as much. Or, like you said, you can change your life in a way that makes it more manageable and sustainable long term, but there is a process that has to be done to get to that point. So having the right people around you makes a huge difference,
Right.
tremendously.
Well, and asking those questions, like me even cleaning out my closet the other day, I made my daughter pick up everything, and she'd be like, "You're not, no, no, no." It just really helped to say, "Oh yeah, I really don't want that anymore." Like you said, we have emotional attachments to everything, and I just help these people that for they've been in their house since 2001 and 4,800 square feet and a lot of collections,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of musical instruments, aquariums,
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 a lot of big furniture that meant something special to them, right? They remember those memories attached when they got those things. They were status symbols of a very successful career.
Right.
And she was ready to get rid of everything. He was not. He was having
That's
a
right.
really hard time. No, we have to find room for the china cabinet. It's not going to fit, y'all. A china cabinet is rare to fit into the new house, depending on what type of house you buy. And most people on a downsize are looking for a one level home.
That's right.
One
Stairs
level.
are the enemy at a certain point.
Yes, yes. And the one level homes are built with floor plans that don't normally allow for china cabinets and some other larger furniture. So just keep that in mind. And the more that you can purge along the way, the less overwhelming it's going to be. So a tip, and this is like a bonus tip. One of my clients said to me this morning, she said, the cost itself to move with the movers moving our stuff after we sold a bunch of furniture, after we purchased a bunch of stuff, after they gave me a lot of gifts, and after the new buyer bought several things from them, it still cost them over $4,000 to move their stuff from their one house to the next house because now they need to purge even more.
Right. Movers are very expensive,
Yes. That's something to
especially a professional one that's insured and licensed and all that stuff.
yeah, and you know what? You really could probably use the help of packers that will
Yes.
actually organize and label everything because they're having a hard time finding, some of their stuff. But that was a tip she gave me, and that's a bonus tip to this is when you think you've purged enough, you haven't.
And if I can add on to that, I think people get
Please.
overwhelmed because they try to do too much. It's really small goals. It's, two drawers, a cat, it's not like the whole living room because people, from a psychological standpoint, kind of shut down and think, oh, I just can't do this. So I tell people start with very small goals. And when you get overwhelmed, just stop and then come back to it. And maybe like set a timer for an hour. I'm going to work on the pantry for an hour and then I'm done for the day, and do it in little chunks because it's a
That's a
lot
great idea.
more processable than trying to do
Right.
the whole closet or you know, the attic, for example.
Oh yeah, that can be and especially in when it's hot. Whew. So I would say those are great little tips to chunk your time and focus on it, like that focus time. We've already said number five's tip is your current furniture is not going to fit in your new home. So you'll have to start seeing things differently in your head. Those large sectionals that are super popular may not fit in the new house because the rooms are going to be smaller in the new house. Matt, this is where you come in for sure. A lot of people will tell us that the goal is, hey, I want to get enough from the current sale of my house to pay cash for the new one, but it doesn't always work out.
Right. Absolutely. No, so if they come in a little short and they sell their house and they, say they need 50 to $100,000 more to purchase the new home, then we can always do a purchase home equity line of credit, or we could do just a purchase, basically conventional loan for 50 to $100,000. Be a very low payment. it should not be a much of a burden. That way they can, purchase the home with mostly cash, but also have a small mortgage on it.
Right. And so, what does that scenario look like? Do you just sit down and kind of consult someone by looking at what their monthly cash flow is?
Absolutely. Yeah. We want to see their monthly cash flow, how much how much they want to put out on it. And if someone wants to go ahead and open a home equity line of credit, we may do a larger line to where they have access to cash if they need it, but we'll go ahead and just start with that 50 to $100,000 draw. That way they can go ahead and purchase the home. But they may have a two or $300,000 line of credit if that's what they wanted, so that if they needed to do something, or if they needed to pay a bill or something like that on a short month, they could always, draw off the line of credit.
Okay, so you've got several options that could help people. And we hear the term reverse mortgage a lot. I mean, is this a good idea? How do you feel about that?
So reverse mortgages are a great tool for retirement if you're on a fixed income. And number one, you could use a little extra. You've got a ton of equity in your home, whether you pay cash or want to pay cash for a new home, or you're wanting to stay put, but you want to be in a place that you're going to stay for a long time. You also want to have heirs that are self-sufficient and do not need tons of equity out of your home when you're done. So basically, a reverse mortgage, instead of having monthly payments, the bank will pay you monthly while you live there. Now, your loan amount will increase as you live longer, and if you pass away, your heirs will be able to sell the property, and then they'll be able to pay the loan off that way. And there are a few ways you can get money from a reverse mortgage. You could get monthly payments, which can basically aid you in retirement along with Social Security or any other retirement benefits. You could get a lump sum to where you could take it and invest it or put it away, however you want to do it. Or you could just open a line of credit and sit on it or use it, however you want to use that.
Well, and I've also, you do need to know, not you, Matt, you already know this, but as a consumer, you need to know if you are considering a reverse mortgage, it's not, it's whenever the house becomes vacant. So let's say one spouse passes away and there's one there that might need to go into a home a couple of years later. Then once that house is vacant, the time starts ticking on how long that loan has to be paid off. And you you cannot risk overpricing the house
Mhm.
whenever this happens, because these people don't play when it comes to reverse mortgage. I would just have to say that is a caveat that I really, really want you to know, that a lot of times you can think that these monster houses, right? The monster houses are not appreciating. And when I say monster, I mean like super large square footage.
Mhm.
They're not appreciating like other houses are. They haven't been for years. Because remember, people are actually wanting to downsize. 1 in 3 homeowners want to downsize. So the larger properties are going to be worth less per square foot. So that's just something to keep in mind. I have the last one I closed on, literally, I asked for 2 extensions and I closed on it 2 days before it was going to be foreclosed on.
Mm.
And you have to keep up with your property taxes and insurance, or else they will foreclose on you if you don't. If you don't pay your property taxes and insurance, and they want you to keep the property up as well.
Yes, absolutely. So
Mhm.
all these things to keep in mind. Is there any other loan programs that you would offer? I think you gave us some really good information already, but
Yeah, so the best loan programs for someone downsizing, it depends on people's risk tolerance. If they've got a very, very low risk tolerance and they do not want a payment and they can pay cash for a house, go ahead and pay cash for a house. If they're very strong investors and they're very disciplined in investing, they may want to pay as little down as possible and keep that cash when they sell their house to invest, because you will, over time in the market, you should outperform what your interest rate's going to be. I love, love, love the middle ground, which is put a very large down payment on the home and get a payment that you can handle and invest or keep the rest for a rainy day.
Love it. Invest, invest, invest.
Mhm.
So thank you. So I would say like the seventh tip on our download here is focus on selling your house first. Um, don't be worried about where you're going because contingencies can break your heart. It can stall your progress. It gets you off focus from doing what you need to do at your current house. Rochelle, I'm sure you see this all the time that people don't want to put their house on the market yet because they just don't know where they're going. Well, it might take a while. And I'll give you this example that I see in every scenario. God shows up at the right time. The
Mhm.
right house comes up at the right time. So the focus needs to be staying on getting the house ready first. Oftentimes, when people are ready to downsize, they may have lived in the house for 10, 20, 30 years and haven't done a thing, haven't even painted anything, haven't even updated anything. So then there's a whole lot that's going to have to be done. You're either going to have to take a lot less and have a far fewer buyer pool, or you've got work to do with new paint, some updating on some countertops, a whole new look, in order to maximize the most you can get out of that property. And of course, that's where I like to come in and kind of give tips and then also have professionals as well. Because my goal is to always get people the most.
Mhm.
And sometimes the most is just letting it go for as it sits. Okay. Every scenario is different, and the location, depending upon that, is very different. I just sold one of these people that moved down in Matt, it was in your neighborhood. And they moved in lots of years ago. The carpet was blue, and he said, "This sculptured carpet is in fabulous shape. Like, why would I ever update this?" I mean, why would you? And there were so many. The floor was linoleum and it had holes in it. And he said, those holes were there when we moved in, but she really liked this floor and didn't want me to replace it. Okay. But I don't want to do a thing, Jenny. I need you to sell it just as it sits. And that's a challenge, right? So every single scenario is different when it comes to selling a move down. And that's why I say you want to start early, because you might have to go in stages to get the house ready. And then Rochelle's got to have time to help you start purging all the stuff that you're not going to want. In this current house, I just told them, leave all the stuff you don't want. Don't
Yes.
even sweep. We'll figure out where it goes.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. They had
Yeah.
already bought.
100%. If we come in on the early end, it's even an incentive because if I list things for a client, they stay in the home. I make them pick a number, 10, 15, 20 things. The commission for them is 90% and 10% for my company because I'm finding them a buyer. And then when you move into the downsizing sale, you're talking about a totally different service. It's a 60-40 split. So they get 60% of the overall minus some seller proceed expenses, which might be like if the property requires a dumpster, that comes out of seller proceeds. Or if there's dump haul fees, that comes out of seller proceeds. But, there are some advantages to starting early because when I am selling something as an individual listing, I'm going to get more money for it than when I'm selling it in a big house full of a whole bunch of other things. There's just an expectation. There's a kind of a scale that we use in resale and private sale. You just get more money for things. Now it takes longer, but
Right.
if you're starting early, then that doesn't matter because we'll get the right buyer. I have a strategy that I use to marking things down if they get stagnant. I don't let them get stagnant. So, for example, a client I'm working with right now, before the moving downsize sale, they'll probably make close to 10 grand just off of things that they were ready to part with. And then they can use that towards a moving, company, or some things they need to do around the house, to handyman services or whatnot. So there really is a huge advantage to starting early when the property calls for that. And especially when it's a larger home, 3-level home. Listen, we can find 10, 15 things in the house they're ready to sell
Mhm.
probably in about 5 minutes.
Love it. That's an excellent point. Um, uh, so yeah, staying focused on the house first. So what my husband and I do as part of our process is my husband is a home builder and a contractor, and he helps prepare the house ready for my clients. But really, all of the stuff kind of needs to start getting purged before that happens. So that's why you want a team first with Rochelle. Then we come in and give you the value of it, how much it's going to take to get to make it marketable at that value. And then Jay brings his crew in and takes care of that. And oftentimes it's ready in a week. Just depends on what it needs. I've got one right now that needs it didn't sell the first time around, and it was on this market for like 90 days. It had just a couple of showings. We're going in, painting the shutters, painting the front door, taking the storm door off, reworking the landscaping on the front, making the entire outside look like a whole new house so I can repackage it. We're painting most of the rooms on the inside and taking some things off the cabinet. So it's a lot more updated and we can attract a lot more of a buyer pool. So, you as a consumer shouldn't have to worry about that. Let the professionals come in and guide you on that. It's not going to be your house anymore. And you are blessing other people with the belongings and the possessions that you've collected over time as well. So that really brought us to number 8, right? Like we were very adamant on that as far as hire help, because that's what's going to
100%. Yes.
Yes.
Delegate what you can delegate to professionals.
Absolutely. My last client, recently that have downsized, they put a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace themselves. And one of the things that she told me is she said, I was leery of some of these characters coming into my home.
Yes.
And she said it just made me feel very uncomfortable. And I told her, I said, well, professionals have different platforms that people don't even know about.
That's right. That
Um,
we pay money to be on, or software to be a part of, or it's personally, especially over a certain age, I would never suggest somebody just get on Facebook Marketplace. You've got to deal with spam, bots, um,
Mhm.
some unruly characters. So you
mhm.
need somebody that can kind of just cut through all of that and know when it's a legitimate buyer. And there's so many things that go into it. Analytics are a huge part of it. A person, well, anyway, I won't go into the nitty gritty because I kind of geek out over the nitty gritty. But you
Tell
want
us.
to be able, you just want Rochelle to text you and say, I have a buyer for your dining room suite, or I have a buyer for your bed. And all you have to do is, I have vetted them. I have looked at their history online. I have made sure that they are not squirrely. And if I would let them come to my house, I would let them come to a client's house. Now, I also do certain things, like I don't just disclose the address until the morning of the pickup. I've already made every single plan necessary. I have pictures of the steps. I know exactly how they have to get in and get out. But anytime it's possible, I just do porch pickup if it's possible, because it just cuts out a whole layer.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that's not possible, but I think there's so much that goes into planning a pickup that people don't even realize, how many people it's going to take to load a 250-pound coffee table. It's going to
You
take at least 3
are so right.
people, and people over or underestimate their abilities, overestimate their abilities
Right. Yes.
regularly.
So it's so funny that you say that, because this huge china cabinet was sold to some people from that drove over an hour and a half to get there. Well, they brought a pretty small pickup,
Mm,
and you had to go down several stairs to
Mhm.
load into the car. And I just feel like my sellers were worried that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah. They
And
made it work.
they
Well, and
made
I
it
tell
work.
people it's on the buyer. It's always the buyer's responsibility to provide the muscle to move and load whatever they're purchasing. My job is to make sure they know all the logistics. How many steps up the front door? Are you going through a narrow hallway? Does a door need to be removed? I mean, it's kind of a little bit of that moving aspect, but it's so that it's less stressful for the client. Because the worst thing is if somebody shows up and they've got a small SUV and they're trying to stick a china cabinet in it. It's not, physics says it's not going to work.
Right.
So, and I don't want to waste anybody's time, not the buyer or the client, especially not the client. So understanding all of that and being prepared and reiterating over and over and over again. Okay, you need at least 3 people. And a lot of my buyers or clients are older, and they have bad backs. They can't help people move stuff. So you need somebody who's advocating on your behalf to make sure, okay, our T's crossed, our I's dotted. This is the time. Now, there's always going to be variables we can't control, but to eliminate as many of those as possible and make it as stress-free as possible.
Yeah, that as possible.
As possible. I do the best I can within my limits. Yes.
But still, what a huge help. So, number 9 is something to keep in consideration that market values change and they can actually sweep widely depending on what month that you finally get something ready. I'll have clients, I'll have a consultation with them. I have one right now that I had 18 months ago and they're still not ready because they really kind of wanted to do things all themselves. They really didn't want the help of a crew coming in. And they didn't want to sell it as is. But y'all, nobody really looks forward to getting their house in order. Nobody. And it can be a dangerous trap once you start doing demolition. And if you're the type of person who just doesn't finish projects, then you can get yourself in a pretty bad situation. So market values change. If I am at your home at a certain time and you're not ready for 3 months or 5 months or 6 months or 12 months, like it's going to be a different every single week. It can fluctuate. So I'm going to give different numbers on that. And you need to keep in mind, you don't need to look at like a estimate or a certain number online and just really wrap emotionally around that and count on that. Don't count on that. Sometimes we can get way more. I can push it up way more at the end. Or I'm gonna have to say, like, hey, I don't mean to disappoint you, but these couple of sales have gone down in the neighborhood. I just recently sold a house that had 23 other houses in it for sale. Okay. That's a challenge. It
Right.
took months. It took months. We're currently not seeing a lot of that, but you do have some neighborhoods that have a whole lot for sale. Ran some numbers on several neighborhoods today, and really there were only, a few houses for sale considering the size of them. But market values will fluctuate, and you've seen this, Matt, in appraisals.
Oh yeah. Well, and as interest rates, if you're talking about waiting until the spring, they're talking about a few rate cuts between now and then. So as interest rates drop, you're going to see more buyers hit the market, which is going to drive up prices as well. So if you're looking to wait until next spring, while your home may be worth more too, you're probably going to be purchasing
Right.
against more competition at a higher price point than what you're looking at right now. And that's something that I would plan for.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I will have to say that traditionally, we're back to a very typical market. And during August, their showings are going to be very slow. If you do have a lot of showings, what a blessing. You must have a just fabulous, highly desired location. But for the most part, when people get ready to go back to school, they are so uninterested in looking at houses. And most people bought for the school district anyway in May and June, and they went on vacation and disappeared, moved in at the end of July, ready for the school year. They're done. No, so normally no showings, or very lightly showings in August. In October, when the weather changes, we do start seeing some more showings then because people get giddy and excited when the weather changes. And they're looking for a new adventure. But I will have to say that November and December, a lot of people take their homes off the market because they don't want to fight the holidays with it being on the market. But December has traditionally been one of my very best months because people are on a deadline. They have a sense of urgency again. You don't have a sense of urgency right now, right? School started. It's really the sense of urgency is going to be location. Oh, I'm going to snatch that up because something came up that I waited 5 years for in that area. December puts back a sense of urgency because people need to be somewhere by the end of the year. They want tax savings. They're going to need to relocate or start a new job somewhere else by the first of the year. So that's just all something to consider. And whenever you're ready, or if you want information about that, we'll determine that what's specific to your certain situation. So really, the last tip on our PDF, and we've given like tons of bonuses in between this. I mean, I'm super proud of the info that we're giving out here. Number 10 is decide your must-haves for your next home and decide what location you want, amenities, floor plan. What are your non-negotiables, your budget? The budget always changes, by the way. You'll tell me your non-negotiable here. It always goes up. I'm going to always show you less than what you tell me your budget is. And most of the time what I see, and I'm just going to give the face when people walk in,
Uh-huh.
because you really expected to buy more in a certain price range. And that's really where I will get with Matt and say, can you please help them with this gap? I mean, they really want to pay as much cash as possible, but we've got this gap. We've got $75,000 we really need to work with so that they're going to be home, because a lot of times what you're thinking in this time is you're thinking, this is my forever home. And you really don't want to settle so much because you don't want to be miserable. I have had people just downsize too much, like people that have gone from over 5,000 square feet to 2 and said, okay, I can't do that. I need a bigger spot.
Yeah.
So,
Or the condo downsizers.
oh yeah, yeah. They usually upsize again. Well, especially too, because of condo fees and all. I mean, you've got to consider all of that. But as we are finishing up today, and thank y'all both for giving such great information today. What do you see, Rochelle, as like what people mostly struggle? What's the number one thing that people mostly struggle with on a downsize?
Just being completely overwhelmed. And it's like this to-do list that seems just impossible. And so I just try to reiterate to them, that's why you have me. People don't pay me anything. I get paid based off of what I sell. So that's just kind of a win-win for them. And I just tell them, depending on the situation, not everybody can go ahead and move. I understand that. So I just tell them I can go into a house, and I want to knock on wood. I don't think I've ever been wrong. I can kind of give them a ballpark of what we should net. And then I can kind of know, are we going to need a dumpster? Are we going to need, I can leave people with a clean house, deep cleaned, blinds, baseboards, everything. But certain things come out of seller proceeds versus my side. So, I can help them and hold their hand through that whole process. And something a client said to me the other day that I'll carry with me forever. She said, we're just looking for our downsizing home. Would you grow old with me?
Oh,
Because there's going to be multiple phases. And I loved that because that is exactly what I do. It doesn't always happen that way. It doesn't always happen in multiple phases, but my personality is try to say yes as much as possible. And then I'm in it with them. A neighbor or a client, sorry, asked me to get no trespassing signs. And so of course, and you understand that too, Jenny, as an agent. I mean, our jobs are not cookie cutter, black and white. Every single client is a different personality, a different house, a different set of circumstances. And so I really try to just meet them where they are and then help them through that process. Now, I'm going to be very honest with them. Your TV cabinet from the 90s, nobody wants that. We call those boat anchors. And they're in every single house, you know.
Yes.
I mean, there's things that are difficult to sell. Anything silver plated, the market is completely oversaturated with it. Now, sterling silver, that'll get people to perk
Mhm.
up, but there's just certain things that haven't really continued, especially since post-pandemic. People don't host as much. They don't have people in their homes as much. So helping people understand the generational changes, but holding their hand while I'll say something along the lines of, okay, I need you to hold my hand while I tell you this, but nobody wants your XYZ. And then just let's sit with that for a minute. Let's grieve it. And then we'll move from there, you know. But I really love people and I really love serving people. So I want to be a godsend to them. And and I just do my best every day to say yes and show up for them.
Amen. We are so blessed to have every opportunity to serve.
Yes.
So, so what right now, what would you say and what's trending as the easiest stuff to sell?
Well, Pyrex is having its moment, but it's only specific, like really older. And if you Google Pyrex, you'll see one bowl that sells for like $150, and people are like just so blown away. It's certain patterns. So everybody's going to go check their Pyrex and see what patterns they have, but most generations have some version of it. Um, Furniture's not a big seller, but if you frame it from the standpoint of and again, depending on what the furniture is, I would say 90 to 95% of us are just have typical houses with typical things and possessions. It's a very niche area to have a house full of just treasures, right? Usually I can walk in a house and I can find the treasures of the house. They might represent like 5 or 10% of the entire estate, which obviously I know how to handle those special unique items. But the rest of the stuff, there's so many people that, you know, they just need a table. They need a kitchen table. They can't afford to get one. They need one that's made out of wood. They want one that's, you know, gonna last. And they can get it for $200, and that's such a blessing to them. So I try to reframe the way some people are thinking about it. I paid, you know, $1,000 for that, and I'm only getting 250, but it's moved. They're responsible for moving it, and it's got a new home, and it's going to get loved in that new home. And a lot of times that makes people feel better.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with that for sure. So, and Matt, one last tip at all for like how do people, fight these rates? If we're not having rate cuts, what are some good suggestions on, just full out buying? I had somebody who was downsizing the other day, and the whole goal was to buy cash, and they said, you know what, forget it. We're just going to go in and get a full blown mortgage and put 15% down. And we got that done in like 7 or 8 days. And so what's your best recommendation there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of getting a mortgage and investing, but that's not everyone's risk tolerance. I get that.
And that's what they're
But
doing.
yeah, I would just suggest if, take a look at, I would go ahead and get approved anyway. Even if you think you want to purchase a home cash, run some numbers. We always do a soft pull on the credit up front, so we don't hit your credit hard. But I can run numbers for you. Hey, if you were to sell for this much less, then you could get a mortgage for this much. This is what the payment would be. And that way, hopefully, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind, but also if the market shifts or you just can't get what you thought you might could get out of your home, you have that comfort of knowing, hey, we can still move into this next home and we can handle this payment and we're good on that. So
I love it. So the person I was just talking about, their goal is they downsized from, nearly 5,000 square feet down to like 2,150. And they're going to stay there for 5 years before they move to Italy and buy their forever home. And so they have a very much structured plan in place. So they swapped, right? Instead of buying the new house for cash, they decided to keep their cash and investments and get a mortgage because they're not going to end up ever paying that off anyway. Right? They're two-stepping the downsize because they're going to be moving to Italy. But how fun and how romantic is that? And what an adventure. And gosh, I was just so excited to be a part of their journey and plan. I love it. So much fun. Well, y'all, thank you so much for being here. Shelly, I know you just hopped on. This is recorded and we'll send it out to you so you can see the whole thing. And if you haven't had a chance, please download the PDF on the 10 things you do need to know. We have some meaty tips in here, and I'm super proud that we will be able to get this out to consumers because if 1 out of 3 US homeowners are considering it, then we want to make sure that we give them really good options as they're making those decisions. So thank you so much for being here. And Rochelle and Matt's contact information should be on everything. But if you want to go ahead and give your number, Matt, if you want to get it.
Yeah, it's Matt Laird with Canopy Mortgage, numbers 205-807-1877.
All right, and Rochelle.
Rochelle Post with Pedaling Post, and my number is 205-567-5211, and my website is pedalingpost.com.
Awesome. And I'm Genny Williams with Extra Living at eXp Realty, and would love to be a part of your downsizing journey, even if it's just to answer questions. My number is 205-223-1044, and have a fantastic day. We're here if you need help.